This year I asked a couple, yeah. I think some, I don't know if you or one or somebody says, yeah, maybe something will happen. You're gonna sit in this chair. I was like, okay, you know what I'm saying? You see me bust out fanning, you know. That's all right. And then if you go, yeah, I know it. I'm gonna show you something. The lawn chair. Very, very peaceful. Okay, we have been through here, you know, earlier. And what time it was in yeah. Just really not funny yesterday. Out of the blue. Field trip. Hello again. Okay. Yep. Here, bring your shoes up. Let's go without shoes. Put you on medicine. And then you feel funny. Oh yeah.
Well, nobody else has started, but I'm just too military not to go ahead and get started. So that way, if we get out a few minutes early, then we can do our thing, whatever's next, which I have not looked at very much. So. I have a sign-in sheet, and I will pass it around, and you can fill out your info on it. Does everybody have a pen? Pretty much? Okay, good. I'll just leave this one up here then. Well, welcome, first of all, to not only planning and serving to honor and comfort, what we're going to talk about, but to Orlando and also to GACHP, or Ketchup, as my grandkids call it. Ketchup. It's been a blessing, like beyond measure, the 3 or 4 years that I've been coming. My wife and I have really enjoyed everything that's gone on. Some of the classes, like this one, some of the breakout sessions, and some of the hands-on things that they're offering, I've done those things, and I just feel that they're all spectacular. I mean, I take stuff home that I'm excited about and that I use at home. The other great thing about GACHP, beside their to inspire and equip, they actually do that. They inspire us here. They equip us on the website. I've made many friends who I've actually called and asked them things. And that has been a blessing. And I would, if you're a first timer or if you've been here 10 years, which is this is the 10th anniversary, I just pray that you would learn people's name, be friendly with folks, get to know where they're from, and it's amazing how much talent is here at the conference. Not everybody has to be culinary trained, which most of us really are not. There are many who are that provide wonderful things, but a lot of us that are in the same boat as far as our church have either done it for a long time, we kind of know what we're doing, we've owned restaurants, we've done other things, so it's just been a great time. So just that's my advertisement for GACHP. It's a great thing. The thing I think we need to do to help GACHP out is spread the word. This year, we have more folks here than we've had any other year, and I hope that continues to grow. Not only because we want to inspire and equip, but to help the GACHP board come up with better, greater, and better things. So pray for that. Go talk to your other churches that are in your area that you know probably have food service directors or executive chefs or church cooks, and kind of get to know them and give them some of your passion for GACHP. That's what, it's just simple as that. Now, have I done that? Oh, not really. I do it a little bit, as much as I can, and as you guys know, that we're very busy. So, but I do get some opportunities to talk to some other folks, and it's been a great blessing. So let's get started off with a prayer, and then I'll begin. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, just praise your name today, and just thank you so much for all the blessings that you just continually pour out upon us. Lord, I just ask that you be with our conference now and just inspire and equip us. Lord, I ask that you would just be with the folks that are here and give them your knowledge and your touch. Lord, for the folks who could not be here due to illness and other things, Lord, I pray that you would just give them peace and comfort and bring them back to us. Lord, just be with us now as we talk through funeral dinners and other things. Lord, just ask you to bless that. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Well, thank you for coming. I'll introduce myself for just a minute. It's not a me show, but some of us haven't been here before, some of us have. I am David Walking Stick, and it is Indian. That's where I got it. So it's a great name because people remember it, because it's odd, it's strange. So that is a great name that you know, I can hand out my business card and they see it and they say, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Wow, what a nutmeg. But a little bit about me, and especially the food service part. I consider myself one of those people who have done a great number of things in my life as far as work and play. Know a little about a lot, okay? But I am passionate about food service and always have been. For my first job at 13 years old as a car hop. Have worked in many restaurants, have owned, been a restaurateur, have owned some. A few years ago, I am on the building committee of our church, which I have been a member of for 32 years, the church, the wife and I. And we voted to move our church. We were in a downtown location that was landlocked and blah, 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 you know. So we went through all the voting and all that and built a new church that I helped design and designed the kitchen, of course. And so once we were in it, we had church cooks at that point. And one of the church cooks didn't like my design because it didn't have enough wooden cabinets or something, which is not a professional kitchen, sorry. And she left, and they wanted me to take over, and I didn't particularly care about that at the time, but I did want to help. So I helped them for several months, and they being the staff, kept bothering me about, we want to pay you, we want to bring you on staff. No, I'll just do it. No, we want it. I don't know why they wanted to pay me for what I was doing for free, but I finally relented, and I'm the only staff in the food service ministry there at the church, which is for our neck of the woods, a medium, large-sized church. So a couple other things that I have been in. I've been in the military. I'm a decorated Vietnam era veteran. Really proud of that. I am worked in the oil field. I've worked at pretty much everywhere. I worked in the phone business, and just trying to educate everybody about food service, really. But my church moved, like I said, a few years ago, and did not have food service, particularly this. I am the first food services director they've ever had. We're a church that runs, with all the services, probably close to 2,000 on a weekend, which is medium-sized church. Obviously, this church is 10 times larger, but there are only a few of these in the country. So, how about some of you? Do you consider your church small, medium, large? Anybody? Large? Cool. Small? That's good. Small? Awesome. This conference and our profession, our passion, doesn't really matter how big your church is. What matters is you're serving the Lord by serving His servants and His people. And so I've worked in churches that have been very small. I've worked in a few, like First Houston and others, that very, very large. So it's been a wonderful time. But that's a little bit about my church. Our policy, and to get into the serving to honor and comfort, our policy at the church, and maybe some of you are still in this policy, that previously to me being brought on board, was potluck. Okay? And that's had been going on for generations in the church as it grew up. And I enjoy potluck on occasion. But for our funerals, it would be, they would call numbers of people, ask the folks who were trying to comfort how many folks are going to attend the funeral dinner, and they would give you a number, and then they would call ladies of the church normally and say, can you provide salad for 50? Sure. And they would call like 5 other people to do salad. But as the time went on after I took over, I saw that was not working. For instance, when they called for salad, I got, it was like a 50. I got 5 pea salads. Like pea salad, but obviously I had to get into my refrigerator and get out some green salad and make some other salads on the fly kind of thing. And same thing with green beans or vegetables or anything. Our church has the policy that we still keep to this day, that the church buys, it's not me, but the church buys a nice large chuck roast that's seasoned. We tie it up. I put it in a roaster for 16 hours. It just falls apart. It's very good. And it's a fairly expensive meat, and so, but it's the expense that we're trying to comfort the family. And we still do that. I added some potatoes with that because nobody liked to make potatoes in the morning, and bring it to the church. And that's fine. It started bothering me. The simple reason we changed is I went to the staff and said, here's the deal, guys and gals. The potluck thing is a couple of reasons we shouldn't do it. Main reason for me, and probably for us, is the food safety issues that you can get into. Love some of the women who cook in our church. Love their food. But not all the people who brought things I could, with a good conscience, serve. I don't know if it was knowing the person, which is very touchy, as you probably can know, but heard horror stories from other people in the church, out of the church, their own stories about, well, I gave the ham to my husband to take to the church that morning, but he forgot it until lunch and then brought it by, or the cake, or the this, or the that, or potato salad. Yikes! And so I would get it at the church kitchen and then have to make a decision. Wow, is this something safe to serve to people? And I didn't feel comfortable with it. Some of the things that were brought in probably tasted fine. My wife's mother, who is a fantastic cook, but the plating of the food or the look of the food, never that good. You know, cakes that are lopsided and frostings run off, but really good. But I would have a lot of that it just looked horrific. I'm sorry. And so I would rather not serve that to folks that are coming in for a funeral dinner. So I didn't. And went to the staff and finally said, let's do this. Why don't you let the church, we'll add a little money to our budget, not too much, because I can do it pretty cheap, and let the church kitchen provide all the food. And they said, you know, I gave them a little budget and told them how much it would probably be for an average meal, and they thought that was great. Some of them were completely on my side about the don't like the potluck situation. The other reason, like I mentioned, really two reasons, was a little bit more selfish in the fact that I knew what was being not brought to me. I knew what I was going to serve, and get there in the morning and start doing our thing there, and I knew what the menu was. Where before, I didn't know till 30 minutes before the meal started if I was going to get any salad or any dessert. So, those are the main two reasons why I felt the need to change from a potluck type situation to an all church kitchen operation. You know, the other thing is that I had an assistant a few years back, and she had been in the kitchen for quite a number of years. She was an elderly lady in her 80s, low 80s. Very, wow, what's the word for Virginia? Very, would give you the shirt off her back, but was also very tough. She took care of one of my kids after school for years, and she would basically say, here's a spoon, go out in the back and dig in the dirt. And they loved it, actually. You know, they knew that she loved them. And Virginia was a sweet, sweet woman, but had that edge to her. And we were one day preparing a funeral meal for a family. And I don't know if you do this, I do it, and I may be the only one. But I used to be a little bit more, with all the meals that we cook, get a little bit insensitive to what we're supposed to be doing, and what we're supposed to be providing, and what we're supposed to, with our separate ministries, be accountable to God for. You get kind of flippant about it, like, come on, let's get this done so we can clean up and get out of here, kind of attitude. And you know, that's not good, but that just comes with the territory. I had a dream, and had some prayer time and a little quiet time, and it just came to me that, you know, David, that one day your family's going to be that in this place. we have we prepare this chuck roast in a kind of a special way where I get it out of the roaster, cool it off for a few minutes so I can touch it, and then get scissors, shears, pull parts of the meat off and clip it into little bite-sized pieces. It just falls apart anyway, but just clip it up. And so while we're there clipping the meat, and it could be, you know, I could have 3 or 4 rows depending upon the size of the funeral dinner. And Virginia was over there, yeah, come on boy, I don't know why I'm here this early, and you know, it's like the whole thing. I said, you know, Virginia, I said, one of these days you may be clipping this for me, or I you. And you know, I think we need to kind of try to make this a little more passion for us to serve these folks and honor the deceased. Yeah, we should. And from then on, we both changed our attitude. Wasn't 8 months later, a year later, that I was clipping that meat for Virginia. Which really hit home a lot more than it had before. It becomes personal to you. From then on, I have become very passionate about our funeral dinners. And we don't have, I mean, we're a medium-sized church, so it's not every day. But like in February, I had 6 funeral dinners, which is kind of a high. But we normally have probably 25, 30, 32 a year. Because we're an old church, so we have lots of older members. And you know, one day someone, hopefully, will be clipping that meat for me. And that's what I continually ask our folks that are volunteers for me. And I'm the only paid staff member in the kitchen, so I do have a lot of volunteers. And that's a whole other session that you can go to tomorrow. But I do have some wonderful volunteers. I have a nice volunteer program, and it's worked out wonderfully. I do have volunteers that I kind of especially select for the funerals and some of the receptions that we have. Not for any other reason than I know their heart about it, and I know they're a little bit more passionate about it than others. You know, I have a couple of rules there, like for instance, had a lady that was helping us out a few years ago, and it happened to be a funeral for a non-church member, and so there was a lot of non-church members and probably unchurched members at the dinner. They had told the pastor that there was going to be 35 at the dinner, and 88 showed up. And you know how fun that is. But everything was fine. I had enough food, cooked a little more vegetables, and off we went. Well, I'd only set up for 56, so we kind of had to scramble and set up for some more because they kept coming in. And I had a lady helping me that was, we were fairly new in the new church, had new carpet, still smelled new, all that, and she was a little bit edgy on the lids. We use styrofoam cups, and we try to use lids on it, just like it's like parking at Walmart with a new car. You know, you want to park way out in the parking lot. Why? I mean, you know, it's going to get dinged. Whether I mean, you can park out there sideways, and some guy's going to pull up beside you just to do it. You know? Well, she was being, I can only think of one term, and I don't particularly want to use it, but I will. Kind of a lid Nazi. You know, she was making people very uncomfortable about the lids. And so I went quietly and spoke to her. I said, let's don't worry about the lids. It's not that big a deal. We're doing the funeral, blah, blah, blah. We'll clean it up. And she was, anyway. That all went fine, except the lady the people were a little upset with it, and I heard about that. But, you know, the volunteer thing is a wonderful thing that we provide and we have at my church. Some churches, especially the larger you are, have more paid staff in the kitchen, and that would work great too. I find the volunteers, most of them work really well at funerals, especially if they're from like the Sunday school class of the person who's passed. And we do have a policy that if they contact me and say they'd like to volunteer, and maybe there's somebody that just doesn't volunteer in the kitchen for whatever reason, I'll normally let them come and help and do their thing, and we'll get along great. Where was I? Volunteers. The change that we made and why I've gone over it is just the food service thing, and also the preparation, that I know what the menu is going to be. We always, and this is something I've done since I started, or very soon after I started there. When we had the other church and I wasn't involved with the food service, they would just fix the food and out the door it'd go, and it's no big deal. And when I started the ministry for the kitchen, I started a prayer time before the serving time. And this is not just funerals, because obviously we would do it then, but every food service event we have, if I have volunteers in the room, or if I don't, I have a prayer time before we serve. Now, you folks who are foodies, who are fixing the food and getting it all ready, that last 10 or 15 minutes before you serve, normally a busy time. But I said, doesn't matter, I'll adjust my schedule a little bit. I'll if the timer goes off, just let it go. We go out in the fellowship hall where we serve and get in a circle and have a prayer time. Just a normal Baptist little prayer time. Just sharing what's going on, and thanking everybody for being there, and asking for prayer requests, and going over folks that we know, like in the kitchen ministry, that are sick or whatever. And it's amazing what that's done in the previous years. As far as I have people who aren't working with us that time, they'll know we're praying before we serve, and they'll just kind of show up because they want to be in the prayer time. I've always asked them if they'd like to wash dishes, and they always say no. but I appreciate them coming, and we always let them come in, and it's grown a little bigger than what I ever imagined it would be. It was really supposed to be kind of a huddle up or put the hands in, rah, rah, rah. But, yay God. But it's turned out something different, which has turned out just like he wants it, I think. It's turned out wonderful. But I would suggest to you, if you're not doing it, and probably everybody is, except I wasn't for a while, to have a prayer time, especially before your funeral services, before your receptions and things, Wednesday night. Just try it. I know when I first started, it was a little bit difficult because you're busy, you're cooking, you're putting rolls in, I serve a buffet at my church. We don't plate it, which has advantages and disadvantages. But so I'm loading up the hot cart and the salad cart and the whole bit, but you can adjust it, and you can have the prayer time, and it's, I think, more effective if you have it right before you serve. Because I also pray for the people who are going to eat with us, for them to have sweet fellowship while they're here. Funerals especially, that's a time where your relatives and your friends that are coming to the dinner, maybe you've not seen them in years, because we've all been through that. It's kind of a horrible time to try to have a party. And a lot of times you don't get to see people who come to the funeral and are sitting back, and it's a terrible thing. But the grieving process kind of blinds you a little bit. But at the fellowship dinner, we really try to make it a fellowship for the family. And I've had some really great times with them. I mean, people laughing, they would break out into song, they would remembering the deceased person, the pictures and stuff. It was like an extension of the worship that they just had in the service they've just had, but it's a little more looser. They can take the jacket off, or they can, get a little more comfortable, eat, and that buzz is a wonderful thing. It's the feeling that if you owned a restaurant or and you serve in church, of that moment where, without them knowing you're there, you see them eat the food that you've prepared, and you can tell that they love it. Or they turn to someone else and say, this is great. Or, it's that feeling you get. Can't describe that feeling, but that's the feeling. And when you see folks who have just lost a loved one, and maybe you knew this person very well, or maybe you didn't, but you see them having those same types of effects, whether you cook the food or not, and whether they're talking about the food or not, they're enjoying themselves in this time of grief. I really think it's the first step for the folks who have lost someone to start moving on a little bit. Most of them are Christians when they're in, that have come. Some are not. But what a testimony to the ones who are not, when they see the happiness in the folks that have lost someone, knowing that they're in a so much better place, and just having the confidence to know that they're there. So prayer time is very important. I thought about doing it, way before, but normally I'm the only one there way before. Not that I don't pray, but it doesn't have the same effect when you pray with your volunteers and your people that come, because they know I'm going to have a prayer time, so that's when they come. Really, the GACHP conferences, what I have learned from folks over the years that I've come, is their experiences help our experience. I've learned some things here that I've taken right back to the church and started doing, whether it's a recipe, whether it's a way we do something, whether it's a way we decorate a table, whatever. I mean, there's hundreds of things. So glean that from this conference, not just this room, but all the rooms you visit, because there's a wealth of knowledge here. I would like to hear a little bit from the brave ones to tell us your experience in your church with funeral dinners especially, and other things that you can share with us. Anybody?
Could you share your menu
What I serve?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I truthfully, it's very boring, because I normally serve the same thing every funeral dinner, and I do that because I keep a lot of the stuff in the freezer. So because there are times when somebody passes away and they want to have the funeral tomorrow, and you go, yikes, I gotta run here and run there. So I try to keep some of it, or most of it, on board. I have the funeral roast, we call it, I don't know what, it's just the time we serve that. I've served it other times, but I don't call it funeral roast when I serve it then. On the menu, wouldn't look bad, it wouldn't look good. Yeah, which is a roast that, just a chuck roast that's seasoned, and we twine it up and roast it 16 hours. And then we clip it, and I serve roast, I serve scalloped potatoes, I serve a Normandy blend vegetable. And then normally, since no green beans are in Normandy blend, I make some haricots verts, some French string beans. And then I don't use my salad bar and make a complete salad bar for several reasons. The cleanup, and also it's a little more expensive. But I just serve a salad mix, normally like coleslaw and corn salad, and then I always try to do fruit, and I'm saying fruit with no added anything, because there are folks out there that cannot have sweet sugar, and even though they don't want it, they can. The fruit is available for them, and some cottage cheese, just the normal little salad bar things, but the salad bar is always small, and then I'll serve a dinner roll. The most important part of the meal, the dessert, which is stressed spelled backwards. Or stressed as dessert spelled backwards. I just normally do whatever I have, or I just go buy something, which I'm not afraid to tell you, because we all do that. Normally my policy is, if I can't make it better than what I buy, why should I try?
Yeah.
Sorry. Paul's back there going, oh my gosh.
Good.
So if I have cake or brownies in the freezer that I've kept from something else, I go with it. Of course, you have to know the numbers, and that's probably in the funeral service planning, that's the hardest thing to convince the staff to get from the family as quick as they can. Obviously, they're worried about other things, but because me worried about numbers, and as you are, that's important. If they say 35 and 88 show up, or they say, more likely they say 135 show up. And then you have what you're going to do with the rest of it.
Salvation Army.
Salvation Army is what I know.
Give it to the family, that's what I was gonna say.
Yes, we used to do that when we had potluck. We would, because I felt that wasn't food that the church had purchased with tithe money, normally, and had been brought in specifically for the family. So I would always go to the leader of the family, whoever that was, and ask them, give them a sheet with the names of the servers on there, and ask them if they would like me to pack up the rest of the food and take it home. Some people would say, yes, I have 60 people in the house, I need food. Or most of the time they would say, no, we don't want it. I try to, if they'll tell me the correct number, I try to get pretty close and not have a lot of extra. But since I changed it to where the church buys everything, I will ask them, but I won't plead with them to take it. Does that make sense? I kind of, Paul?
I was going to say, you need to check your local health department codes as well, because sometimes allowing a family to take a product home could put you in liability.
Sure.
Yes.
So you
Right.
need to know that as well. At my church, we don't allow them to take it. If they bring a to-go box and take it without my knowledge, I can't avoid that. It's not on me. But I don't provide them to-goes. I don't pack it for them. When it's leftovers, we take it, and then we will determine if it's safe to donate to our food pantry.
Right.
But yeah, you need to be careful about the
And I do
liability.
the same thing when I'm Wednesday night. If I have a low number on Wednesday night, which, we're all kind of magicians about Wednesday night. Our church doesn't have a reservation system or anything. Just whoever wants to come, comes, pays the $5 and eats. That's great if 190 or 290 are coming. But if you fix for 150 and 70 show up for whatever reason, like summertime, or the pastor's gone somewhere, or all those hundred of things, Awanas or whatever your child thing is on Wednesday night, if that's out of session, you're going to have less people there. And I know that, so I try to do less. But there'll be times if I serve chicken strips and cook for 100 and 160 show up, yikes, I'm in there cooking chicken strips real fast. or the other way, it's the same thing. But I always try to determine at the end of the evening, at the end of the whatever we're doing with food, after we cool it and put it in the refrigerator or the freezer, wherever it's supposed to go. The next day, normally I go try to figure out if that's something we need to donate. We have a part of our church, it's a mission church that they accept food. Also, the Salvation Army sees me when I pull up and sends people out to get the food. But I don't want to make anybody sick, whether they know it's me or not, or the church or not. So, I have had to teach my volunteers a little bit about, a lot about food safety, but I'm talking specifically about the putting the food up, where it needs to be down to 80 degrees before you actually put it away. Rice and potatoes and all that stuff, and it's so easy if you have leftover rice to put it in a big bag, and there's 12 pounds of rice in a big Ziploc, and you stick it in the refrigerator. Well, that middle of that rice is you can come a day and a half later and get in there and it's still warm in the danger zone. Will it kill you? Maybe not. Will it give you problems that you don't particularly want? Maybe so. So I split it up in smaller portions. Even when I send it home with folks, I won't give them the whole bag of rice, or I'm just using rice for an example because it's perfect for an example. I'll put it in several smaller bags or to-go containers and mark it and always put the date on when it was prepared. But I keep that same. Now, for instance, I have done lots of different entrees in the funeral dinners. In fact, we had a young man that passed just a month and a half ago. Their family wanted a hamburger cookout. Wow, that's crazy. Hamburger. Oh, he loved hamburgers and loved the cookout. Okay, and let's do it. We just had built a new bus barn out on the south part of the property, opened up all the doors, and the pastor came by one day, and before the deal, said, the family wants a hamburger cookout. I said, really? Yeah. Well, how many? And they told me how many. I said, yikes, where are we going to do that? Well, I don't know. I said, how about the bus barn? He said, man, it's a great idea. I said, God, I wish I had said that. Got to tote that stuff all the way to the bus barn. But actually, it turned out, I'm telling you, it turned out, I've never been to a funeral dinner that's had cookout, but I've never been to one that had that spirit in it. In fact, the spirit was nice enough where the pastor and all the staff were yucking it up about, we're going to have fall festival here, put straw bales around, just have this little hootenanny. And it was a great time, and the family loved it. They had a little band that played, and it was a worship service and a hamburger cookout, if you can imagine that. And it worked out fine.
A couple questions for you. It sounds like your church doesn't charge for funeral receptions.
Not for church members.
Okay, outside church members?
Our church policy is yes. If they're not church members, there is a fee for the building, for the kitchen. But I've never known them to charge anybody that's outside the church. But the policy is to actually charge.
So trying to find out numbers, my peculiar way of doing it is a couple different ways. Usually what happens is that I get the name of the family, and you try to call them, and of course you ask that big question, well, how many? And they go, we have no idea. So what I've done, because I may know some insights to it, obviously our pastor talks to them.
Sure.
I've used the funeral home as an example when I think it's going to be a big one, and I'll go, because there's only 2 funeral homes that we pretty much deal with most of the time. I'll call them and say, well, how many do you think is going to come? Because they've done some work themselves.
Sure.
And they'll say, oh, we think it's going to be 300 to 500. okay, you get a little closer? They said, well, maybe 4.
Mhm.
So what I've done, I've gone back to the family and said, okay, I got a number, but we charge for the funeral receptions.
Mhm.
So what we've done is, over the past 3 years, is I've got a ratio that I use, and it pretty much holds true. So I'll go 60% of the number that I'm given,
Mhm.
either by the family or by the funeral home.
That's
to help
probably
me-
close for us too.
That helps us guide us.
Mhm.
And then I go back to the family and I say, okay, it looks like the funeral home thinks you're gonna have 300. We've been using 48%. I don't know why we chose 48%, but we
Mhm.
think that worked for us. And we think that you're gonna have about 125.
Mhm.
They'll go, we're comfortable with that, we'll pay for 125.
Okay.
And then 150 show up.
Well, that's good percentages, because that's probably really close to what we do also.
Yeah.
If they tell us 100, for instance, I always prepare for 100, but kind of on the light side, because I know probably 50 to 60 are gonna show up.
We used to use, we had a bereavement group that the church they used to do before I came aboard, and we happened to have a big funeral one day, and the director from the women's UMW said, we're not doing this anymore.
Mhm.
And of course, I was curious why they came to that conclusion. She said it's way too much work to do 300 people.
Yeah.
Because they wanted me to get out of the way, and I said, okay, I'll stand back and watch this.
Yeah,
lovely-
take place, yeah.
Yeah, take place, and of course, they wanted me to jump in, and I go, look at, that's a,
Yeah.
I can't be telling the UNW what to do.
Yeah.
They're their own entity, and, so they came to me and said, we're not gonna do it anymore, we give up, or they said, uncle, you can have it, we don't wanna do this anymore, but we do call on them.
Yeah.
We'll say, hey, we got a big funeral coming up, and we need your help as far as being guests at the door.
Mhm.
We need help with, just kind of being there, and
Mhm.
of course they will. And I do have paid staff that come in because we use tablecloths and
Sure.
china and stuff, to make it as nice as
Mhm.
possible. We just had one before I came here, the director's husband's mother passed away.
Uh-huh.
There were several things going on, and of course, they wanted a very intimate, after the funeral, memorial service, for the family to unwind.
Mhm.
Didn't know, lo and behold, they had 2 culinary instructors in the family, and
Makes it a little uncomfortable, doesn't it?
I didn't know about it, and it really doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
We're gonna do what we do.
Sure.
And our staff is very professional what they're doing,
Mhm.
and, so I don't find it offensive. Yeah, it's fun to hear what they have to say, and of course, most of the time they say, well presented, it was nice to see that a church has, no longer does church food.
Right.
And of course, I still laugh about it, because our senior pastor will brag about that. We don't have church food anymore. Yeah, we still have potluck, which we're trying to get the UMWs and stuff away from that. But fortunately, they don't want to do the work anymore.
Right.
We are an older congregation.
Right.
And they realize it takes too much to do 300 to 400 people for a
Mhm.
function. They just said, we just don't have the energy anymore
Wow.
to do those things.
Well, that's good. I've never contacted the folks, because I rely on the pastors to do that. Not that I wouldn't, because that's not a bad idea, especially if you know the folks, kind of thing, and they know you. But you could also present it in a way that I am in charge of the food service, and we would love to give you a wonderful experience, and blah blah blah. And I think they would understand that more. Then maybe sometimes the pastors are talking to him about all the other things, and then they throw in at the end, and how many do you think are coming? And of course the answer is almost always, we don't have any clue. And then they'll follow up with, well, we kind of need a fairly close number, if you can work that out with whoever in your family. And then they'll call back, but sometimes it's after I had to buy the food or whatever. So, and if I know it's going to be a big one, I go buy the food anyway, since I serve basically the same meal, unless it's a hamburger cookout.
Because we know a lot of times the funeral, either it's a full funeral or it's a memorial, it could be the next day, like you said. And we've had that happen to us. And of course,
especially memorials, if they cremate, or
yes.
even if they don't, If they're trying, they have family in town because the person was sick, all those many reasons, it can be fairly quick. Now, they try to do it, normally the funeral parlors, with the Walker Funeral Homes of the world, kind of dictate that a little bit, because they say, we're too busy, we can't do it until such and such, but, yeah, I have had several that have been, the person passed away in the afternoon of one day, and they're wanting to do a noon lunch the next day, Those are things in food service, like everybody knows, that you just have to do. You just have to make it happen. And you are a magician to a lot of people when you do that. And they don't know how we do that or any of those reasons, but it doesn't really matter. That's what we have the passion for, and what we're, and I'll use the word called, to do. So we do it. I have another question.
Well, he asked a similar question that I was gonna ask, because when you were talking about the budget you had for funerals, I was wondering if your church paid for every funeral reception.
Yeah, and like I said, they really do. They're not supposed to. If that makes sense. I have a benevolence fund, and I have my kitchen supply fund that I have to manage. And the benevolence fund pays for the funeral dinners. So I always try, whether I get the funds is one thing.